immediately got into a job where he made like,
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Call this work session to order for the Monday, September 12th City Council work session. The clerk, please call the roll. Here.
Here. Karuba. Here. Reynolds.
Present.
Faulkner.
Here.
Eklund. Here. DeVersa.
Here.
Russell. And President Dose.
Here. This time we'll give an opportunity for the public to speak. Is there anybody who would like to address the council? Please state your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
My name is Richard Heyerfeld. I live in the Jamestown Hotel and park my car at the Cherry Street garage. There has been a lot of problems there. The elevator's been out for 9 months. I had a break-up and assault. I've been threatened. I've had an object thrown at me from the 4th floor. I'd like to know what they're going to do about fixing all the problems. Firstly, about the elevator.
I can answer that. Yeah, the elevator is currently under reconstruction. We put a new elevator in. It should be done in a matter of weeks, I would guess.
Okay. The other problem is with the certain types of people that seem to hang around in that Cherry Street garage on a regular basis. I got threatened the other day for no reason. I didn't even know this individual. He said I was stalking him. He's going to turn me into the police. Never seen him before in my life. I've been parking there for almost 11 years. About a month ago, there was an assault on the other side of the garage where there was 2 teenagers beating up a black man. I intervened. They ran off, and I reported it to the Jamestown police. And apparently they said they picked those people up. But that's a regular occurrence that's going on, plus getting your car damaged there, or people starting fires.
Is there a particular time of day, or is it like when you come and go, or is it during the day, in the evenings, dark time, night?
A lot of problems happen after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. That's after the parking attendant goes home. But the parking attendant can't do anything because they just sit up there. They don't even know what's going on. So I talked to the man who manages it, and I said, well, what about cameras? Or what about restricting people to the elevator with a card, so that unless you have that card, you can't access the elevator to prevent the elevator from getting damaged like it's been damaged in the past.
We'll follow up with Tim Stam, the gentleman that is managing our parking ramp. There's been some changes with the parking company as well, so we'll try to follow up with those issues, and we'll chat. The police chief and I we'll chat about some of those other incidents.
Can I just interject? I did a ride around last week, and after 7 o'clock at night, we made 2 passes through that ramp. So I think the police are aware that, you know.
Well, I've come up there sometimes and found, I don't know if they're car clubs or what in the world they're doing up on the 3rd floor, but it could be like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and there's like 10 people up there with their hot rods, so to speak. I don't know what they were doing.
There was none that night, but they go all the way up top to the bottom. Yeah.
Top, up
Yeah.
the 3rd floor.
Yeah, we were up there. So I just want to say, I think they're aware anyway.
We are aware of the damage. We are going to put extra patrols in the ramps because both ramps are getting vandalized. Right now, that's about as much as we can do. We also need people to call the police when they see these incidents happening, and I know that's not happening all the time.
Just so there's one more thing, I talked to the mayor outside about the handgun issue in New York State and getting a concealed weapons permit, because I don't feel safe walking in that parking lot anytime, night or day.
Thank you.
Can I do that?
Sure. Or you can stay. Thank you for bringing that to our
Appreciate it.
attention. Follow through. Anybody else?
Melissa Petterman, 246 Faulkner Street. One of the things that I was going to ask about safety issue with what this gentleman was saying is about like those emergency poles. I mean, we see them on college campuses around the country, you know, that have the blue light. I mean, has anybody thought about those specifically on the Riverwalk? You know, maybe in the ramps? I mean, you know, it's hard enough to call 911, but, you know, if these just were going right to the police department and the police could know exactly where the emergency is, then it could make their job easier too, just a suggestion. My main reason for speaking tonight is, regarding the trees. I'm gonna talk about the trees again. The trees are obstructing signs all over the city of Jamestown. I don't know how many times I have to come to these meetings and talk about it, but it's terrible. We look like we live in an angry forest. We look like this city looks so terrible in some sections of town. And it's just, I don't know if some people don't drive around these parts of the city, but it's deplorable. That whole, like by the river, the viaduct going on Windsor Street is just disgusting. Paint it. Can we get some paint on the, you know what I mean? I know it's the highway or the railroad, but, you know, slap something up there. I mean, it looks disgusting. I don't know about you, but ragweed season's in town, and we shouldn't be having as much as we have in the city. It's a weed. If people aren't taking care of these parcels of land, then get the boys club, the Boy Scouts, just like Justin Miller did. 2 groups of Boy Scouts cleaned up garbage on McKinley yesterday, or over the weekend, and I think that's a great thing. You know, these kids wanna do good, and they're cleaning up areas. I mean, you drive down Steel Street and it's just, you know, and what's gonna happen when the trees fall? Or the leaves fall? You know, it's just gonna be ugly again. And I know we can't make it look like the enchanted forest and it's gonna be beautiful, but, you know, I really, really think that there could be better things. If we can't do it with the people that we have, then it's time to hire out. You know, do a one-time gig. I know union this and union that, but if we keep saying that, we're never gonna get anywhere, right? I mean, I don't know if y'all don't see it, but it's bad. Maybe not, you know, Tony Dole's right by your house. There's a stop sign that's, every time I drive by it, I know it's there, but right there, stop sign. Right there on the corner of Clyde and Arlington.
There's no tree there.
Yeah, there's a tree right there. Coming from Arlington towards Buffalo. Yes, there is. Right there on the corner of Clyde and Arlington.
It's in plain sight, you can see that stop sign.
No, it's not. But anyway, I drive by it because my cousin lives on Arlington, and I go from where I live to her house, or if I'm you know, like, I'm not trying to say that you know, it's your fault, but I'm saying it happens in the nice sides of town too. You know what I mean? We can't ignore it. We can't keep ignoring it, and it's not gonna go away.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on.
It is true.
to Finance.
Tony doesn't wanna believe it.
There's no tree there.
Okay. Finance Committee discussed resolutions 1 and 2, and had a couple questions that Controller's going to provide, but maybe Mayor, you can answer on behalf of Lisa not being here, I guess. So long story short, we approved originally $500,000 of ARPA funding to go to communities and neighborhoods for the home improvement and senior citizens. So that was the $1 million. Resolutions 1 and 2 will take $500,000 out of the home incentive program funds and move to the seniors, in addition to another $500,000 to make that $1.5 million for the seniors and nothing in the home improvement incentive program. One question we had is, were those applications sent out? Did we do anything with it? Are we gonna ignore a certain group by moving everything out of there?
So, great question. There is nothing that's been done with the home incentive improvement program. besides the senior citizen program.
Right.
So what we had heard from city council was to a push towards ensuring that we were able to support our seniors. So we did that program first. When we rolled out the program, we got $1.8 million in requests, which has been quite popular, and a lot of the homes really very much do need the repairs. So instead of a program that would, the home improvement program would support and provide a cash rebate to anyone that makes over, I think, $5,000 in repairs to their home. We have not done any of that. We basically just focused on the seniors. We certainly can, but we will then have to just, you know, we will have to prioritize the applications for the seniors.
I guess the concern is, for me personally and some of the other council members, is not taking care of the seniors, but also neglecting another group. And making sure that we're covering everybody and not just one or two groups with ARPA funding. So the lower income and the senior is great, but we're missing that middle group who maybe it's a struggling family, single parent, doesn't meet all those other needs. They have a job, but they could use some incentive. So I think that I want to be sure of.
The second home program would not have any type of income restrictions, so anyone can apply, and you have to make over $5,000 in renovations to your home in order to receive any type of cash rebate. We certainly can run that program, or we can work with our staff to figure out are there other ARPA funds that we could try to pull from as well. It's up to you all. We're happy to run either one.
I don't think anyone's opposed to increasing the seniors. I want to make that clear for the media as well. We've all been getting inundated. That is just that fine balance of not forgetting about someone else.
You guys tell us, right? We'll
I'm kind
do
of
the
throwing
one.
it at you, so I mean,
I would agree with what Kim is saying, because I think we're looking at, you're right, there are people in the middle who they're not 62 yet, and they may not have a severe disability, but they may be working 2 part-time jobs to try to make ends meet, and they're looking at trying to maintain a household. And for some of those individuals that don't fall into either category, you can't just say it's always for one demographic only. And I think we need to look at some of the other individuals. I think Ben's gonna talk about one of the other programs for housing. And we're looking at, are there other ways in other programs, or how can we collaborate with the other not-for-profits so that we're utilizing all funds that are available to try to help people make improvements to their homes. So, you know, just, I agree, we can't ignore, you know, based on the calls I've been getting, I'm sure other council members are getting, they are not all seniors that are calling.
no.
And there have been concerns, I brought it up in finance, about that people on our side of town, on the west side, are now having issues with people getting into their garages, they're getting into their cars, and concerned about safety and not being able to make changes to their property to lock doors that are on old garages and other things. It was just brought up to me tonight, and someone that I work with had their garage, somebody got into their car and was messing around in their car, which wasn't locked in their garage. I had somebody say they had somebody go in and take food out of their freezer, was kind of camping out in their garage, and they had no way to lock it. And they were concerned about, you know, the problems that we've been experiencing with the number of homeless individuals. Unfortunately, we've got a problem that's not segregated in one area. It's starting to expand throughout the city, and people are looking for shelter, and they're looking for other ways to address their needs. And what that means is they're going into people's property now, and somebody else brought it up, people are feeling uncomfortable because they don't know how to protect themselves. And they're thinking that I never had to do this before, but now it's becoming a more common occurrence. And I've had people tell me they see people walking down the streets at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning down the middle of the street, and they may be looking for opportunities. So I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and some of this has to do with being able to take care of properties.
So Marie, is there, what type of program would you be suggesting for something
Well,
like that?
I'm just saying, like Tim said, that we're
Okay.
not just dealing with seniors having these issues.
Of course.
These are people that don't meet the senior age qualification. So I think we need, as you said, open it up to let people who have need to, everybody that's called me has said, I can't afford to do this. I need to do it, can you do something to help us? And, it was, and I never had calls from these individuals about safety, about, anything with people getting into their properties. But the number I'm getting now makes me concerned. And the number of calls and where they're, I won't say the streets, but where they are going are not typical streets where I've had people say this is necessarily an area where we've had issues with break-ins.
I'd like to see these two resolutions move for, next 2 weeks meeting in our voting center, for the fact that those phone calls in my ward have been, primarily senior citizens that need the help. And, I guess what more do you need to satisfy that vote, or to bring it to a vote?
Again, no one is saying that we don't want to see these come forward
Okay, I think you said something about the controller giving you more.
go ahead and speak, I'm not gonna speak for you.
So I was just gonna give her some more some more information on the senior citizen versus home and giving her the updated list from Lisa, stating all the applications that she's gotten so far and where they stand. The one that we had tonight was not filtered out for some people at age 65, so.
The list we received from Zach was not the most recent list, so,
Okay. We'll get you an updated list.
yeah,
No problem.
we're looking for more detail. And maybe this resolution, maybe it's not 500 and 500, maybe it's 250 to the other one, and maybe it's 750 here. I don't know, but I would like to see those numbers and like to see that.
I mean, we're open to any suggestions that you all have. I'll have our team take a look at the rescue plan funds to see how much is remaining, which is not a lot.
Not a lot.
I know. So we don't want to allocate too much, but we'll certainly take a look to see if there's anything else that we could start to make moves on.
I was unaware of the list.
Yeah. So, I'll talk about what the controller gave to us today, about at the end, but I'll read through the rest of these resolutions. So, resolution number 3 is leasing approximately 886 square feet of office space on the 3rd floor of the municipal building for use of the Center for Resolution and Justice Program for a period beginning April 1, 2022 through March 31st, 2025, is illustrated by the attached agreement. Just for reference, that is an ongoing lease extension, we've been here before. That was approved. Resolution number 4, whereas the city of Jamestown heretofore applied for state funding under the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee Police Traffic Services Program, and whereas the city's application has been approved, resolved that the mayor be and he hereby is authorized and directed to execute a grant agreement with the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee Police Traffic Services Program in the amount of $10,044 and no cents for a period of October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. Detailed backup was attached in your email. It's seatbelt. Anything else? You want
Yeah,
to add?
a variety of traffic enforcement, including seatbelts, school buses.
Perfect.
We're very excited to win the grant for Tim's department, so. I know it's got a long name.
It's just, it's not so much the length, it's the repetition of the word traffic.
Agreed. Agreed.
So,
It looks weird when we got the award letter too.
that was approved. Resolution number 5 is resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute a change order with Arpatic Concrete Excavating LLC of Jamestown for Beachview Avenue Street reconstruction 2022, based on a change order dated August 31st, 2022, for a total increase of $44,653.25, subject to the approval of the Corporation Council as to form, and this is funding through CHIPS. That was approved. Final resolution out of finance tonight was that the mayor is authorized to execute a change order with S. Tabone Construction of Fredonia for West Third Street streetscape based on a change order dated August 26, 2022. In the following amount of a total decrease of $32,598.50, subject to the approval of the corporation council as to form. The other thing briefly mentioned besides the ARPA funding was that 19A was gonna be discussed for everybody's benefit under housing. But as of today, everything that has been approved already by council equates to $18,831,713. The two resolutions, resolutions 1 and 2 that are ARPA are $1,002,1.2. So that total would go up if we were to approve these as they are written today to $20,081,713, leaving a total of $7,997,432. Not much. So, not much for all the things that are being talked about to be done, let's put it that way. Just to give you an update. If you could email that to
Yep.
everybody else, that would be
Sorry,
great.
I missed it in your pamphlet. I was a little late
That's
this
okay.
week, so.
That's it out of finance.
Any questions? If not, we'll move on to housing, Maureen.
And I am going to defer to Ben since he talked about the 50-day program, just because I don't want to say anything in error.
Appreciate it, Councilwoman. So I'm not gonna go through the whole spiel on the program, I'm just gonna kind of focus on the additional information that was provided, the request of the Finance Committee last month, in terms of what kind of restrictions we're going to place on people that are taking title to these homes, and also kind of what the process is going to be for selecting the people that go into them. I'm going to start first with the former. So there's going to be kind of a multi-pronged mortgage placed on whatever property. Monetarily, it's going to be in the amount of city ARPA funds placed to rehab the house, and that amount would be taken, and if they move out at some point during the 5 years that they're required to stay there, they would have to pay back a portion of that money. The portion of that money would be determined basically by the percentage of months left of those 5 years that they will not be occupying the house after leaving it. So if they leave after 15 months, there's at that point 45 months left. So whatever 45 divided by 60 is, not a math guy, they would have to pay the city that percentage in order to be able to leave the place. There's also going to be more firm restrictions placed. For instance, we can foreclose if at any point they fail to pay their property taxes in that 5-year period. If they fail to maintain homeowners insurance at any point in that 5-year period. And if after all the initial code violations founded upon our taking possession have been fixed, if they allow further code enforcement violations to accrue on the property and aren't responsive in taking care of those issues. So that's pretty much kind of the scope of the requirements that would be placed on a homeowner under this program. In terms of selecting who goes into these houses, we don't have such strict and firm guidelines. As I explained to the Housing Committee, it's really going to be kind of on a house-by-house, case-by-case basis. Some of the nicer houses, we're going to find someone who will pay hopefully market or above, that's willing to agree to those terms, and then use the profits we make from selling those houses at market value to fund further rehabs down the line. For some of the middling to lesser houses, I hate to use such simplistic terms, but it really is kind kind of, I guess, the clearest way to do this. We're gonna work with our nonprofit partners to find people who have graduated first-time home ownership programs, find those interested in particular properties, and give them to them. If there's multiple people that show interest, it's most likely we're gonna take the ones that are willing to bid the highest amount, unless there's some sort of like massive red flag that arises when we're discussing things with them. In terms of those lesser or medium houses, I suppose, the game plan is we don't necessarily have to expend solely ARPA funds to rehab them. I'm thinking specifically of the one at 810 North Main when I kind of go into this spiel. To get it livable, we're probably gonna have to do, definitely gonna have to do the front porch that's collapsing and rebuild that. There's gonna be making sure that the utilities get turned on. But a lot of the other issues that we've kind of identified there aren't ones that necessarily need to be taken care of to be livable. Most likely I'm thinking of the roof on a small addition in the back is starting to deteriorate a bit. So in a case like that, we obviously have to expend the ARPA funds to get it livable, but then we can either kind of go with one of our nonprofit partners and one of their programs to get the rest. We can use potentially HUD funding to pay for the rest as a way to make sure that we're not sinking an incredible amount of the ARPA funds and essentially preventing the program from being continuously viable. We have leverage to kind of approach everything on a case-by-case basis. I know it's not probably hard and fast deadlines that you necessarily wanted, but I think it is really important that we keep in mind that each of these houses that we've already acquired or are going to acquire are, none of them are the same as one as another, so we kind of just have to take it case by case. And I think that's pretty much my spiel on what additional information has been provided. I'm more than happy to take any and all questions from members of the council at this point.
And this was 500,000 or 700?
750,000.
So take 750 out that total I gave you to the club, so basically down to 7.2. Well, one of the, that's what is the recommendation.
The 19 is in
Here in
Is it in there?
it's in
there. Yes,
red.
it is. It's in the back there, on red.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
good to know,
okay.
sorry.
One of the advantages of the program, the way it's set up, is that they would be partnering with organizations who have been doing housing such as COI, CRIC, Code, any of the other organizations who may be able to leverage additional dollars. They're trying to save houses that before they become unredeemable. The advantage of this program is that the individual who buys it versus the tax auction will know exactly what's wrong with the home. They will know what needs to be done, what needs to be brought up to code, the time frame it needs to be done. There's an advantage to this because it gives us control of the property, and it also forces the individual who takes it on, they have to comply with all the requirements of maintaining insurance, bringing it up to code, and seeing that everything's done in a timely manner. When it goes on the tax auction, we had the issue that they're sold and resold in 3 years, that they lapse again because the individual finds out the home is beyond repair for what they can afford to put into it and get the money back out of it. So there's a large benefit to the community where there's a single house or two on a street that may be pulling other homes down, or other people feel inclined that they don't want to keep their home up because they're sitting next to a property that's devaluing their own. So there's a lot of positive things that can come to this program. I realize it's an investment of money, but it will save properties from being demoed, hopefully, and keeping a neighborhood intact. Because most of us have had complaints, there's usually a house that's a problem on the block, and it can affect everybody that lives here. So this is a new strategy. It's hopefully one that by partnering, we'll be able to see some investment that's going to reap rewards in terms of keeping these properties on the tax rolls instead of taking them off because they've been redeveloped. So,
Do you have a list of homes that are meeting this requirement already? I mean,
yes.
We've got right around a dozen that we've already acquired. Let's see if I can get this off the top of my head. 102 Barrows, 77 Barker, 171 Barker, 94 Howard, 18 Catlin, 810 North Main, 49 Utica, 20 Johnson.
Spring Street?
There's nothing on Spring Street. We've got one, 511 Halleck, I believe we, also acquired, but I think that's supposed to be kind of a dual land bank in us project, so I don't know if the funding will necessarily come from this, and, let's see if I can figure out. why I haven't mentioned-
Main Street.
810 Main.
810 North Main, yeah.
You mentioned
Can you email?
We can send this.
I can send you the list, and then we've got, about another 7 or 8 that we're currently in the process. There's one on Price, one on Windsor, there's one on Stowe, there's one on State, there's, a recent one that we just got, over on Dearborn. There's one, I will email the list. I try my best to give them all off the top of my head, but, so I can email you a list tomorrow, Councilwoman.
Appreciate it.
And I will differentiate ones we've already acquired versus the ones we're moving forward as well, just for clarification purposes.
Ben, do you see an impact on enforcement down the road? Increasing the, guys out checking the houses and checking the buildings, and will you cover that, Crystal, with your department? You're gonna increase.
Not out of the 1980 funds.
No, but you have the resources to keep up with inspections and.
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Well, I think the general strategy is going to be, every couple months, you just,
Somebody do a
someone does
walkthrough or
a drive-by or a
Yeah.
walkthrough. Walkthrough probably not gonna have to happen as often as a drive-by, because interior issues oftentimes take a little more time to come to a head. But, insurance-wise, it's more just, hey, submit us an insurance certificate once a year. The deadline for that will obviously be dependent upon exactly what time of year they take title, so, and, the keeping up with the property tax end, that's easy enough, they pay them downstairs, so.
I think what we'll do is, when we develop a full standard operating procedure, there will be kind of a manual, for lack of a better term. So everything from the moment we acquired property, all the way through to, release of the lien, which at that time, you know, our portion of, I guess, oversight and involvement is done. There will be a manual that goes along with that, and it'll follow pretty closely with the HUD programs that we already administer. But that'll answer all of those kind of detailed questions, and then we'll assign sort of a inspection and, monitoring, I guess is probably the better term, schedule and process for that. So we already do a monitoring process of our CHODOs, our Community Housing Development Organization, so CRIC and Code, because we, give them, or we allocate a portion of our HUD funds every year to those organizations. We are also then required to do a monitoring of them. So what we'll do is we will pull, a random sample, and we'll go through, you know, all of their processes and make sure that they're adhering to all of the guidelines. We can set it up so that it's very similar to that process, and then we'll do it and align it as a once a year, monitoring, if you will, of each property that we have in our, inventory.
I have a question. As far as some of the conditions of some of the homes, I'm assuming have not to be occupied, or are any of them. So actually, before they can move in, you're going to have.
Oh, yes.
You'll have to issue a certificate of occupancy, so
Yep.
to your point,
Yep.
if things aren't done at that
Yes.
walkthrough, then they're not gonna be able to move in.
Yes, and that will all be established in the actual contract, once the contract with the homeowner is put together. All of those terms will be laid out, they'll know exactly how much time they have to bring that property up to code. And Ben mentioned, each one is gonna be a little bit different, because every house has different needs, every house, will have a different homeowner, so we have to take all of those factors into account. And when we kind of match make, if you will, the new homeowner with the property, at that time, we also will go through and identify which resources do we layer to get the project stabilized, get the homeowner,
you know, the idea is we wanna set new homeowners up for success. We don't want to saddle them with a house that needs a bunch of repairs and then not give them the resources to do that. So all of that will be identified in each contract, along with, you know, once we determine scope of work, then we'll determine what the schedule needs to be and how long we have to bring that property up to code.
That was pretty much it.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to public safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have the same resolution as finance regarding the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee East Traffic Services Program grant. This had been an annual grant that the city received up until a few years ago. And we hope this continues to be the annual grant that we received, and we approve that. The next was an ordinance to propose redistricting of the city council boundaries, required by the city charter. There was a bipartisan reapportionment commission that met several times. We considered various redistricting plans, and the commission chose the option that provided the least amount of change to the current ward boundaries. That was all included in everybody's packet there. There's maps of that. You have a bigger map that shows the changes. Just looking along the top of the city, Ward 3 had no changes at all. Ward 2 lost one block to Ward 1. Ward 1 gained some area of Ward 6 over here along Scioto and Eagle Street there. The biggest change looks like this area down here, but a good portion of that is Allen Park, so there's actually nobody living there. It's not counted by the census. And then a portion of the 4th ward was shifted into the 5th ward. So that was approved by our Public Safety Committee. Will be voted on by full council at our next work session.
Councilman Sheldon, this would have to be, I believe, a local law, so it would have to be introduced, then tabled, and after you vote on it, there'll be a mayor's hearing on it. But we'll have this in local law format for the city council. We have the information now. We're just having it confirmed by our surveyor to make sure it's correct, and then we'll have it in local law format for you to introduce and lay aside.
Any questions on that?
You know, just a brief comment. I know that we met over the course of several months. We looked at 3 or 4 different proposals. And again, the committee decided to go with the one with the least change. Again, Ward 3 had no change whatsoever. Literally a couple hundred here shifted over there, a neighborhood or a block here shifted. So there was very little change to get them pretty much equal. Your ward was Ward 1 was the smallest.
Yeah, we have the biggest population of clients.
Yeah, and so you took a neighborhood back, the one you gave me 10 years ago, you get it back. And then you took part of Ward 6, and then 4 and 5 had a little shift there because the numbers were off. But other than that, it was pretty, they were pretty close in terms of numbers. They weren't too far off. So, I think wasn't very much shift. Thank the members of the committee. Took a look on that. We started that, what, in May? April, May? And we just finished last month, so it's good.
And then under information reports, Deputy Chief Coons presented some changes to the electrical standards, and I'd like to ask him to talk about that now. Vote on that in the next session.
Sure.
Council members, thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. Just a couple of
proposed changes. Here, I'll quote some of the highlights. What you have in front of you is a draft proposal to make some changes to chapter 131 of the city code, which has to do with electrical standards. Part of the role that I have as your deputy fire chief is to be the chairman of the board of electrical examiners. We meet monthly on the first Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. at the fire training grounds. There's a 5-member board that's part of this. We also solicit input from the public. And generally, other licensed electricians in the area will attend those meetings to watch their business. So what you have in front of you as far as proposed changes, everything is highlighted that we're proposing to change. The original language should all be there. I apologize for the messiness of the document. We tried to leave as much of the original language intact as possible, try to make it somewhat readable so you can see where the changes actually are intended to be inserted. So just a couple of points on what we're kind of looking for as part of these draft revisions. Certainly some language cleanup, to terminology changes, cleaning up some of the grammar in the document. One other noteworthy item in there is we've addressed some of the testing requirements that are necessary. Years ago, the city used to administer their own electrical examiner's test. The city has not done that in many years. We actually have an applicant for a class 1 or class 2 license provide proof that they've taken a sanctioned exam, and a lot of that is all done electronically. They simply just submit their test results to us when we review their application. Minimum qualifications is another thing that we've gone over as far as how one applies for a class 1 or class 2 license. We're looking for a certain amount of work experience that goes along with that. It wasn't previously listed in the document. Now there is a minimum number of required hours that they're required to complete as part of their training program. Some other changes that are in there, there's some permitting requirements that were not previously in the document. Our goal here is to have electrical work be permitted before it occurs. That way it's kind of on our radar, if you will, and that'll certainly help with some code enforcement issues that we face. Especially if we're not aware that there's electrical work going on and there's an unlicensed electrician that's performing that work, it certainly will be helpful for us to know that that work is taking place prior to the work being completed by whoever the electrician. There's some language in there that was cleaned up regarding electrical inspections. We're moving from 2 classes of electrical inspectors to just 1, where they'll all meet the same requirements. And finally, you'll see towards the end of the document, we've submitted a proposal for increased fees for offenders. Anybody that's convicted of, for lack of a better term, certainly after we go to housing court and they're convicted of a violation of this portion of the code, then there's a fee schedule that's attached to that, depending on the degree of offense. So those are the highlights. Again, this is a draft proposal. If you have any questions or concerns, certainly entertain them, or you're welcome to reach out to me at any time.
Several, I think that's very much needed.
Thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
What's involved in amending the charter?
Yep, great question. So what will happen is this is actually a code, so it'll probably just be an ordinance amendment. So what we'll do is we'll put this in the form that is required, barring any changes that you all may have once you've reviewed it. And then it's with an ordinance, it doesn't require it to be laid down for 30 days. It could be voted on whenever necessary by the city council. We'll just confirm, I don't believe this needs a local law, but we'll check with Corporation Council just to double check. I think it's just an ordinance change, so we'll prepare that in the form that's required by the state. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
That it?
Yes.
Public Works, Randy?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We, one of the things that may fall under new business is a change order. And Jeff Weedman may elaborate on this a little bit.
Can we explain that?
Yes, I would, please.
I'm gonna hand out the ones I gave you.
Yeah, I handed them out. They're out.
Did you?
Yeah.
Terrace Place?
Terrace
I
Place.
had to be blessed.
Uh,
This is just a change order for Terrace Place, which was a CDBG project. We did some additional work. We're proposing to do the additional work out of CHIPS to finalize that street. What happened was, we got into it, it was supposed to be milling off the top 2 inches of the paving and repaving 1.5 inches because the blacktop was high. We got into it, we found that there was no paving underneath 2 inches higher than no paving, very little. So we went up with a deeper dig, so it was a more expensive road repair. Probably never have to be back to that street in most of your lifetimes. So, questions?
Are you guaranteeing that it'll be
My lifetime.
their lifetimes?
I was just gonna say whose lifetime we were in.
You're omitted. All right, thank you, Jeff. One of the things that we did want to say was that we did not get the $500,000 grant from the New York State ERDA grant. And for the garage on Washington Street. And what Jeff has informed us is that we're gonna get away from the electric and go gas.
Right, we're going with gas. We think we can make up the $500,000 we lost in that grant. It was gonna be exceptionally more expensive to go electric. So we're working right now with our architect and the different contractors on the job, trying to value engineer it. And I'm hoping, since we're not having a meeting next week, I thought I better bring this up. We get some change orders and they'll all be deduct change orders, so it should be a good thing. And I'll send out anything we get.
Yeah, and then, the way of heat, we discussed where they're gonna do the heated floor in the cement. Right? And most people that do get that like it, whether it's private or not. So, yeah, so we may be able to, yeah, that's gonna require to jackhammer all that out, Jeff? Of course it is, huh?
That's already been jackhammered out. Our crews did that over the winter.
All right, yeah. So, could save some.
Right before the Rams, they lost to the Bills. So that's right.
Just before that.
Yeah.
I told you I'm gonna punch you when we get outside. Don't put that on.
Yeah, we have that on record.
Don't put that on that thing.
You're a Rams fan?
I don't take the Tugs, he didn't wear the hat this week, but you guys had the Rams hat.
Tough ones.
It was a tough one, but that's okay. I'm a Bills fan also.
This year.
Yeah. Easy. I've been to a lot of Bills games. Yeah, so, and that would be about it.
Any other questions on this work? If not, is there any other business before we turn it over to the mayor? I do have a couple of announcements, and first of all, I was thanking for the article today. I can put the message out. Wednesday night is our forum, 6:30 p.m. this Wednesday, September 14th, at Dara Hall, which is at the Christ Church United Methodist Church. It's in the back of the church. It's where they hold the voting right there. It's handicap accessible, parking right there. So we'll be set to go at 6:30 this Wednesday. Another announcement, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it came to my attention that there will be a number of people that are not available next Monday. So we're going to be canceling the work session for next Monday. We have several people that have other commitments that night. And so we will cancel that, and I've asked the mayor and the department heads to, if there's any other business that needs to be put on the agenda before the voting session, to get it out as soon as possible so that people can have a chance to look it over. I don't think there'll be any surprises, but if there's anything that's new to be put on the new business, then we can at least have time to ask questions, look it up and get answers before we vote 2 weeks from tonight. So just to make sure you know that next week will be, I know you're out of town, right? There's other people that are missing, so decided to cancel that work session. And that's all I have, so.
Well, don't forget the homeless coalition meeting
Yes.
tomorrow night at First First Covenant Church.
I didn't know if you were gonna,
Are you gonna mention it? Well, I wanted to make sure other people, since you didn't bring it up, I wanted to make sure.
I will mention it, yeah.
Okay, I will let you mention it too, and I guess the Resource Center on September 28th is doing a pre-movies at the Regs. The Sprout Film Festival is finally back since COVID. You do not have to have a ticket. It's very inspiring if you see these films of people with disabilities and what they've been able to accomplish. It will be at the Reg, no additional charge, but you'll really enjoy it. If you haven't been to it once, please go. You really have to see it to see how transformative people's lives are through the assistance they get through programs and services like the Resource Center sponsor, but these are films from all over the world. And very, very, very good night, so just mention.
thank you.
Look for that.
All right, I guess you're up.
Wonderful, just a few updates for our council members, just to give you a heads up. We'll also be putting on the agenda an updated lease agreement with the county for the 5th floor that will run until 2023. So we've been working with them to make some repairs to their floor up on the 5th floor, and they're extending their lease. Their lease has been up, so we've been working on month to month with them. And so they would like to formalize that lease agreement up until the end of 2023. So we'll be sending out no major changes to the lease. We're gonna keep it the same monthly amount going up to the end of the year, next year. Any questions on that? That should be pretty straightforward. The second item is I didn't receive. I just want to remind folks that if you have any additional changes to the proposed not-for-profit grant that we've handed out to the council members, please send those comments along so that we can make any changes and try to finalize that ARPA program. So again, just a reminder, the sooner if you have any changes, send those along. I'll have Michaela send around tomorrow another copy of the not-for-profit grant so that you all can, it goes higher up in your inbox, which is sometimes what I need in my life. The third item I wanted to talk about was, as Marie had mentioned, homelessness. Thank you to all the council members that we were able to chat about some of the issues that are ongoing in the city, to hear some of your suggestions, solutions. Very much appreciate that. Today, we did meet with a group of various organizations across the city that are dealing with homelessness. Thank you to Councilmember Sheldon, who joined us today as well, was able to make it. I know that it wasn't the best time for everyone. It was hard for us to get all the organizations together. But we had some really good discussion. Just so folks are aware, just those in attendance, and included the Salvation Army, UCAN, our Department of Development, COI, STEL, UPMC joined us, as well as Evergreen Health, MHA, members from various county departments, and Lutheran Social Services, and the mayor of the village of Falconer also joined us. He is also having similar issues in Falconer, especially since the county does use some of their properties to house folks during the winter. So he was able to join me on the discussion today as well. We realize there are some additional folks we want to include, but these are people that are already part of the county's homelessness coalition. And so we wanted to bring them together. To summarize it for all the council members, what we have normally seen in the past is homelessness that includes folks that have been kicked out of shelters or have been sanctioned by the county or other providers for whatever violation of services they've provided. We would normally see about 25 to 30, is what the last census was, homeless here in the city. We are finding some encampments that can be up to 50 to 70 people. And we are trying to work to deal with it. As I explained in the meeting today, that is a new challenge for these organizations. It is a new challenge because we now have individuals that don't want to accept services or have gone through all the services and are just choosing to live outside, or in some cases they have moved here and or left and come back, and so these are not the normal groups of folks that we would see. So in that vein, we wanted to bring people together to have a conversation about how do we start to address the concern that winter is coming. And if you don't have an adequate plan, we will then start to see individuals look at abandoned houses, right? And look for other areas to stay warm. So we had some really great discussions. We have talked, we're gonna continue to talk, and I think we're gonna have another meeting in about 2 weeks, at the end of September. We'll let the council members know if anyone wants to join. That's the normal meeting for the Homelessness Coalition. And we will also be meeting, as Marie had pointed out, I've convened and called the pastors from the majority of churches in the city and asked them to join us tomorrow night at 6:30 to talk about homelessness and the ways that our faith community can assist us in this process. As I had mentioned today, there are very few, if any, faiths that I know of that don't talk about helping people that are down on their luck and need assistance, and homelessness is certainly one of those things. So we want to try to engage our faith groups. Just so you all know, we've been doing a lot of research from other cities on how things have been going. I've been talking with and discussing with a lot of mayors from across the country on how they're dealing with this, especially if they were seeing small amounts and now seeing large amounts like we are. And there haven't been a lot of good solutions, but there have been some, one of which has been a partnership with resource organizations and faith-based groups together, trying to assist in some emergency sheltering and providing a place where people can not only stay for a period of time, but for resource organizations to go to and provide those resources directly. So we are working with both of those groups, all of the organizations, as well as all of the faith-based groups that we'll be talking to tomorrow. Council members, you are all invited. I think we've sent out information about it if you'd like to join. It is not open to the public; it's just open to the churches. But we'll certainly, if you aren't able to make it tomorrow night, we'll provide you all updates and information about it. My hope is that we could start to find a solution, and I will tell you, and I know Councilman Sheldon, I don't know if you agree, but there were some solutions that came out of today's meeting that could help in the immediate time frame. It's not going to solve all the problems. As I said, we don't have all the solutions, but we do have steps in the right direction. I don't know if you agree.
Yes.
Councilman. We had a long meeting on it today. And as I told all the members there, after we solve homelessness, we're gonna go for world peace next. So let's hope we can do that. We are, so that is the information on our homelessness initiatives. Tony, you mentioned that we've got you've got your forum coming up on Wednesday, so we're very excited about that. And then I actually don't have any other updates besides 2 personnel issues. Surprisingly, I'm done, and it's almost 8:30. Okay. Short one today, guys. I can keep going if you want me to talk about other things.
No, but I guess I have a concern about, I guess it's a little disconcerting to get information from the Post Journal before I hear it as a council member. And I'm sure you know what I'm referring to on the front page of the Post Journal today. And it would be very much appreciated, since we talked about transparency. I felt like I was blindsided.
So was I. We were not served with any information until today. Yep, and I'm happy to talk about an executive session if we want to add with pending lawsuit.
That's fine.
Yep. You got it when I got it. So.
Okay, do I have a motion to go into executive session
So
for personnel and
2 personnel, 1 pending litigation.
one pending
So-
litigation?
No action to be taken.
Second.
So moved, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, executive session.